Hello again, this is Marxist, and welcome to my rough guide to capping points, a public service announcement. The last several nights this week, I've been asked to mentor teams eager to improve in the off-season, and a lot of them have been having a lot of trouble capping points. I know I talk about it a lot in the Scout video, but this is going to break it down on how teams should manage capping points, who should do it, and when. Then we're going to watch some short video examples that go over the things that I talk about using STV demos from previous ESEA lands. Here I'll loosely define how each player should deal with capping points, when they should do it, how it should be done, and how to manage it as a team so that you can have the most efficient possible offensive force. So we'll begin with the most important class when it comes to capping points, the Scouts. A lot of what I say here is going to mimic the general principles video on Scout, but this will deal more with some in-depth stuff regarding capping points. So if you're a team leader or a Scout player and you want to do things right, you have two methods with which to go about point number one. One is much easier than the other. So I'll talk about the easiest one first. You have two Scout players on your team, and you either decide amongst yourselves or pick one, and force that one to be the Scout that will cap every point. That makes things easier because you have Scout A and you have Scout B, and B always caps the point. So every time you push, Scout B knows exactly what he needs to do, which is cap the point. And Scout A knows that he can be more aggressive than usual and chase frags if need be, because he doesn't have to cap the point. Scout B's got his back. That can make things really easy if you have Scouts that don't like to talk, or you are a Scout who does not like to talk, because the other method in which you cap points is just whichever Scout is the most lit or least far forward has to cap the point. That leads a lot of teams into trouble, because especially newer teams, because a lot of Scout players don't like to talk and don't have the best situational awareness, so you end up with both Scouts chasing frags and nobody capping the point. And that's when you see the mistakes that I saw this last week, where a lot of teams have their combo capping points because both Scouts ran off and died, and you just can't do that. So the second method, if you have good comms, is to have whichever Scout is the most lit communicate that they're going to cap the point, or if you're a Scout and you see an opening, make sure that your Scout partner knows that he now has to cap the point. And additionally, of course, if you're the only Scout alive, you have to cap the point. There are exceptions to that, in that a demo or a roamer might run the pain train, but even so, generally it's best for you to cap anyhow, because those classes are just better at moving forward. If you happen to have a really good thing going for you and you know you have a pain trainer on your team, then you should tell them to cap the point before you go and die or do whatever it is that you're going to do that's not capping the point, because somebody has to do it. And lastly, as a Scout, you're shoehorned into this role because of your default ×2 cap rate and a number of other factors. In order to get a ×2 cap rate on any other class, they have to give something up. Their bullet resistance. And that hurts. Also, it's quicker for you to move up from having capped to wherever your team may be now. So we'll do a little thought experiment to prove that. Say you're a Scout, you cap the point. You're going to go up to where your medic is now. You'll have crits heals by then. You're a 185 Scout coming into a fight. That's a pretty good situation to be in. If you're the roamer or demo who's been capping the point, you're going to have to sticky your rocket jump to wherever your team is, or walk, which is even worse, because everyone will be dead by the time you show up. You're going to have to sticky or rocket jump, and you're going to get to your medic without crit seals. And now you're a non-crit sealable demo or soldier in a fight, and that's not a good place for you to be. So it's more efficient to have your Scouts capping points. Also, you're very fragile when you push out into enemy territory in the lead. So, for example, you push up to a choke. that's what non-capping players should be doing. And when you do that as a scout, you're incredibly vulnerable because it's easy to kill you when you're in a tiny doorway because soldiers shoot the ground and they will hit you. So try to avoid those sorts of situations. Now we're going to talk about the soldier, specifically first the roamer. The roamer should never cap the point unless you are doing it to deny the spawn of a demo man or a medic. The other classes aren't really worth your time as a roamer to deny their forward spawns. Or, if you're the only player alive, then you probably ought to cap the point. If you've chosen to go pain train, that'll generally only come into play on last pushes. And I'm not talking about lasts in this video, so this is general point pushing, the other 3 points on every map, so we're not dealing with that here. The pain train can come into play in other situations, like if you're really lit and your team wants to push forward because you wiped them, then maybe it would be okay for you to do it then and farm health packs with your pain train. But in general, it would be better to have a scout cap and for you to get healed and push up. The reason for that boiling down to the fact that you have a rocket launcher, and rocket launchers are really, really good at keeping people out of doorways. So you're generally more effective, even at lower health, at pressing people out and keeping them from defending areas than a scout is. So it's better to have the scout cap and you go stand in front of a choke and spam rockets at it. It's just better that way. Pocket is a lot like the roamer in that you're generally never going to cap unless it's to deny a medic or a demo spawn. Particularly because as Pocket you have a health advantage over all but one player on the other team, so you're going to be able to keep people out of chokes better than almost anybody on your team. You are generally always better served to be pushed up and pressuring a choke because of that. However, sometimes it's essential for you to cap, and then maybe you have to do it. The only time you would do it there is if most of your team is dead and you're pushing out of a last. Then you'll want to get the point at least halfway capped before you press up so that your team can get there and the point can be capped in a timely manner. So that you don't have to worry about the spy back cap and other malarkey like that. As medic, you want to be in a friendly little competition with your roamer to see who can cap the fewest times in a match. Obviously, if it's a game-winning cap, or you're denying enemy medic or demo, then it's fine. It's not a big deal to cap. But, in general, you don't want to be capping. You're always much safer as medic being pressed up on a choke, because when you're sitting on the point, that's when you're going to be vulnerable to unseen spies and snipers, players that were hiding, and when someone bombs in, generally they're going to bomb the point. And so if you're on it, you're going to be there, and it's going to be hard to turn down shooting at you. Whereas if you're pressed up, you're going to be able to deny entry to those people really effectively so they won't even get to you. Or your team's going to be pressed up at least, and they'll all be denied. You won't be sitting on the point relatively defenseless. As demo, like both the soldiers, it's better for you to be pressed up. You're the best defensive class in the game by far, and you can keep teams out of areas single-handedly. So you ought to be pressed up and not standing on the point, not doing anything. You're wasting your time as demo, capping points, and not pressing people out. So generally you behave like a soldier in that regard. However, it is rather common for demos to run pain train. Because if a scout's on you, you're probably dead anyways. So the bullet resistance doesn't matter as much. If you do have pain train, it gives you an added layer of flexibility, in that if your scouts are already pushed up quite a ways, then you can just cap and let them keep going. And that'll make your offense a little faster. Or if you're hurt or need to reload or don't have any ammo, it gives you the ability to cap the point and buy yourself some breathing space. But I find mainly if you're gonna try to use the pain train, the best thing for demo and pain train is starting the capping of points, because you can jump to places really quickly and people tend to leave you alone when you walk onto the point because you're the demo and you have 12 projectiles to shoot at them. So you get the point most of the way capped, and then your scouts will get on it and then you press up. That's generally the way that pain train's used at the higher levels, as far as all the time Pain Train use. Now I have a little phrase that I use when I do one-on-one mentoring when I see teams overstacking the point, and I say, "Are you playing a lobby?" Because back when I used to lobby, every point got capped by 5 or 6 people. Generally, the whole team would stand on it. You're not playing in lobbies like that anymore, so you need to change the way that you play. In summary, never have more than ×2 cap on a cap point unless you're denying a medic or a demo's forward spawn, or you're denying 2 people's forward spawns, and they don't necessarily need to be the medic or the demo. Or you're pushing out of last and it's essential that you cap the point as quickly as possible. You can even dip under ×2 cap in some situations. For example, if a point is most of the way capped and there's a lit soldier somewhere around, you could make him cap every now and again just to make things move more quickly. But in general, never more than ×2 cap on a point.